Welcome back everyone to the second video in this three-part series where I teach you how to use GitHub in a software project management style workflow. So a fundamental concept of software project management is branching, especially as it applies to GitHub and Git. So before we get started and learn about how we can branch and how we can integrate branches and all that good stuff, let's go ahead and talk about the motivation for branches in a GitHub repository. Once again, I'm going to propose a thought experiment to you all before we get started. Let's imagine we have a data pipeline that we've been implementing or developing on individually. Let's say your company has come across some windfall and has decided to hire another data analyst / data engineering person, and now you are a team of two. How would you develop this data pipeline concurrently without getting in each other's way? Well, this branch image that you see right here is actually a great example of how this would be accomplished. Before we get started, I want to provide some nuance to you all. So as you can see, we have something called master. This is actually no longer relevant. This has been deprecated. This terminology has been deprecated. Now this is actually called main. And you should also see this within your repositories. Whenever you create a brand new GitHub repo, the main branch or the first branch that you have is called main. And think of this as the trunk of a tree, the main trunk. Anyways, let's go ahead and continue discussing this thought experiment. So you're all developing a data pipeline, and so far you've made a batch of commits for version 1, version 2, version 3, and at version 3, this is when your company has actually hired another data engineer. So how are you all going to be developing without stepping on each other's toes, proverbially speaking? So here's what's going to happen. This new developer, I'm going to call them developer A, is going to create a brand new branch off of your main branch. This actually indicates that they're making an exact copy of your main branch, except this copy is completely separate from your original copy. That way, if something goes terribly wrong or they make some changes that weren't intended, that actually does not impact our main branch at all, because all of these changes are completely separate from our main branch. Anyways, so this developer is going to be developing this feature, and let's say this feature is like some sort of data cleaning workflow. So first they're going to make version 1, they're going to make one batch of commits, another batch of commits. I'm going to pretend like feature B doesn't exist just to simplify this example. So let's keep talking about feature A. And let's say after commit number 2 or push number 2, developer A ropes you in. They state, hey, I'm dealing with this bug that I cannot fix on my branch. Can you help me out? Well, yeah, you definitely can. And better yet, you can help them out in such a way that it actually does not impede upon their work. How is this going to happen? Well, you are going to create another branch, and we're going to call this like feature A1. And this branch is actually a copy of the feature A branch. And in feature A1, you are going to make independent changes that will not impact feature A at all. And the beautiful thing about this is that developer A can still continue progressing and developing the rest of their features while you are hard at work fixing some bug that they cannot get over. Or alternatively, just developing or just helping them finish this feature. Anyways, so after we do that, or after we are done with our changes to feature A1, we are actually going to implement something called a merge. In GitHub terminology, this is actually called a pull request. Anyways, what's going to happen here is that feature A1 is going to be merged into feature A. And preferably, someone is going to review your code before they merge in your changes. So we're going to implement some sort of review or some sort of test. And after this is done, let's say now developer A is happy with their changes, and they're also happy with your changes. So now they're also going to merge in their changes to the main branch. Well, once again, we are going to take feature A, and we're going to take all the new code that has been developed from feature A, and we are going to automatically merge them in to the main branch at this iteration. And once again, and this is very, very important, this code must be reviewed and tested for proper documentation and functionality. Of course, this is going to be the job of a tester or someone that's supported by the tester. Anyways, and once we make this change, or once we make this merge from feature A into the main branch, this actually constitutes a brand new release. So you know how on your iOS or in any piece of software that you use, sometimes you get these updates, these releases. Think of this as the exact same thing that's going on. Basically, the developers have been working concurrently on the main branch, in a separate branch rather. And now that they're happy with their changes, they're going to integrate it to the main branch. They're going to integrate it to the live code that exists somewhere important, whether it's on your phone, on a website, or honestly just on a Tableau dashboard, which is probably going to be our case. Anyways, so that is the basic concept of branching. Let's go ahead and figure out how we can implement branches ourselves. So there are two ways we can go about this. Well, actually, pardon me, before I get any further, let's go ahead and clone this repository. So I'm going to go ahead and copy this link by going to this going to this test repo that I created from the last video. And you all should be familiar with this process as well. You're going to go into your command prompt or your terminal, whatever OS you have. You're going to navigate to some location that you where you want your repository to be cloned. It's a good idea to figure out these commands like cd and ls, especially in the context of bash. We're going to be talking about that more. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and type in git clone and then my link. All right. So as you can see, we have a success message. We've successfully cloned test into our computer. So now I'm going to go ahead and go into VS Code, and I'm going to go ahead and open up this folder. Once again, I really want to emphasize, or rather dissuade you from using these automatic workflows that do things automatically for you. It's great, it's convenient. However, when we're in the process of learning, this is a hindrance to us. Let's say we're trying to study to be a mechanic. You're not going to just sit in the car and drive and state that you're learning. No, you need to open up the hood and you need to see the underlying mechanisms that are going on in order to really affirm your understanding. Anyways, I'm going to calm down and I'm going to continue with this lesson. Let's hit open folder. I'm going to hit TKH. I'm going to hit test. And great. As you can see, we have our repository now successfully cloned to our computer. I have my README, and I also have this new file called development1.md. We're going to see how we can make changes to this full file and then integrate those changes. So anyways, before I move forward, or rather, before I talk any longer, I want to show you all how you can create a branch, first of all, in GitHub, and then how we can create a branch in Git. So to create a branch in GitHub, you're all going to go back to your repository. You're going to click on this list of branches. Now, what you could do here is you can type in a branch that you want to create. I'm going to go ahead and call this feature pop. And as you can see, we actually get an option to create a branch called feature pop. I'm going to go ahead and click that. Now, I've okay, that's odd. I'm gonna go ahead and refresh this. There we go. Now it's called feature pop. Anyways, so now I've successfully created a branch called feature pop. Now, if you switch between main and feature pop, you'll notice that these branches are completely the same. So far, there are no changes to feature pop. That's fine. We're going to leave that the same for now until we get to the third video. Let's see how we can now view this branch via Git. I'm going to open up my test repository again, and I'm going to go ahead and type in git branch-a. And check this out. So if I type in git branch-a, this will show me all the branches that are currently available on my local machine. Notice how I don't have feature pop. How can I get this branch pulled to my repository on my local machine? I'm going to have to type in git fetch-all. Whoops, 2 dashes, --all. Thank you, Git. Look how helpful that is. Look at that. Now I've just gotten a message that feature pop was pulled to my local machine. So now I'm going to go ahead and type in git checkout feature-pop. And now I've successfully switched to this new branch, which is basically an exact copy of my main branch, except now I'm free to mess up, do whatever changes I want without impacting the important code that's on my main branch. So that is how we create a branch from GitHub. Once again, to list out the steps, we go to our GitHub repo. Then step 2, we click on the drop-down menu that states main, and we type in a new branch name. And then 3, we click create new branch. And then finally, we're going to go ahead and type in git fetch --all in our terminal. So this is the workflow of creating a new branch within via GitHub. However, the better way is always via the command line interface. This does not involve any context switching. Rather, you stay in your terminal and you just type in a bunch of commands and you automatically get your new branch. So let's go ahead and go over this workflow. Before I go forward, I'm just going to pause for a second to let everyone take in this information, maybe do this on their own branches themselves, and then we'll move forward. All right, that little break also doubled as a water break for me, so I'm ready to keep going. Hope you all are too. Okay, so that was how we create new branches via GitHub. Let's go ahead and figure out how we can create new branches via Git. Once again, I personally prefer this method, and I also want you all to prefer this as well, just because it's much faster than clicking into GitHub, logging in, doing all that fun stuff. You can just type in commands in the terminal and you automatically get a new branch. Anyways, to start off, I'm going to go ahead and type in git checkout main. Once again, checkout is the method of switching between branches, and git fetch --all is the method of pulling all new branches from your repository. So let's go ahead and type in the following command. We are going to type in git checkout -b, and then we are going to provide a new name for this branch as well. I'm going to call this feature cap. So we're going to type in git checkout -b feature -cap. I wish there was a way for me to magnify only one specific portion of my screen so that you all could see what exact commands I'm typing in. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and type in or hit enter. And great, this actually did 2 things. One, it created a new branch. And 2, it switched me to that new branch. Now, if you're interested in just creating a new branch without switching to the branch at the same time, you're going to type in git branch and then the name of your new branch. This will only accomplish one thing. This will, or rather only do one thing. This will just create a new branch without necessarily switching you to it. However, I find that it's useful to always switch to a new branch once you create it, because then you'll actually be able to immediately push it to origin. What exactly does that mean? Well, remember how when we first created a branch in GitHub, we did not see it being reflected locally? Well, the same applies in the opposite case as well. Just because I created this branch on my local machine doesn't mean that it's necessarily going to be reflected in the remote server. Once again, I want to define some terminology. Local is your computer. Remote is the server. Think back to that client-server relationship. Client local is you, remote is the server, it's GitHub. Anyways, just to prove to you all that we will not see this branch. As you can see, when I click on this drop-down menu, nothing gets popped up. Even if I refresh, feature cap still does not appear. Well, what do I need to do? I need to push this branch to my remote server. And how am I going to do this? So first off, before I move forward, I just want to specify that it's probably a good idea to first make some changes to your branch before you push it, even if it's the very first push. Anyways, so since this is called feature cap, I'm going to name the capital of Canada. I'm going to pause the video and pretend like I know this off the top of my head. All right, it's Ottawa. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and also, actually, I'll leave that alone. All right, now that I've made this change, I'm going to go ahead and push, well, actually, first of all, I'm going to add this change, and I'm going to name my commit. So I've included the capital of Canada. And then finally, I'm going to push this to my remote server. I'm going to type in git push origin. I only need to do this when I first create a branch when I first create this branch locally. After I've created this branch locally and then pushed it to my origin, I no longer have to specify that I'm pushing to origin. This is just a one-time thing. So git push origin. Whoops, actually, pardon me. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but thankfully GitHub or Git is actually very useful. It's going to be push dash setup stream origin and then the name of your feature. Great. Now if we go back to GitHub, oh, look at that. It actually is telling me that feature cap was just pushed to the remote server. I'm going to refresh, and as you can see, feature cap is right over here with some new changes to development 1. The capital of Canada is Ottawa. All right, so that is how we create branches via GitHub and via Git. Once more, I just want to point out to you all how we create a new branch via Git, which is my preferred method, and I hope it becomes your preferred method as well. First, you're going to execute git checkout -b new branch. Then from there, you are going to make some changes to this branch. Then afterwards, you're going to type in git push, not put push, git push -- set upstream origin. Got to make this a little bit bigger. Set upstream origin new branch name. And once again, everyone, I want to remind you all that this right here is a one-time thing. After you set origin to be upstream, you are then going to push changes simply via git push. All right, so that is how we create branches and push changes to branches. Next, we are going to talk about the interesting process of code reviews. Hope to see you all in the next video. See you all later.